one of the things we talked about Bible study, trying to understand the Bible, is that we said the Bible is God's revelation. Somebody asks you, what is the Bible? The answer is God's revelation. God's revelation of himself to his creation. Because most people think the Bible is about them. The Bible is not about you. The Bible is about God. Right? The Bible is about God. From beginning to the end. Hello, sir. You told me. What? We could drive together. Huh?
I was late.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of time people ask you, what is the Bible about? And if you take a poll of Christians everywhere, the answer is going to be different in God. Well, it's always going to start with it's God's word, but God's word, what? It doesn't mean by God's word, right? So the Bible is God's revelation of himself to his creation. Because had God not written the Bible, people would still be wondering who is God, what is he like? But in the Bible we find out who God is, what he is like, and what he's done, right? So that's what the Bible is. And we said the Bible is divided in two sections. The Bible is divided into sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament. But each section, each of the division has three sections, right? We said the first one is the foundational things, right? The foundational things. What is the second one?
Historical things.
Which we call the living out things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The historical things, and then the instructional things, right? So the foundational thing is God putting the foundation down and saying, so if you take the Old Testament, God is setting the foundation in the first 5 books we call the Pentateuch, the book of Moses. This is who you are. This is what I expect from you. You're my creation. This is who I am. And this is my expectation of you, right? And this is the promise I have for you, right? So the first 5 books, that's what they are doing. And that's what we study. Now we're getting into the living out things. Well, it's the same thing. Every country has a foundational thing, right? The United States has the constitutions, right? The first amendment, the first one, the second, the third amendment, the fourth, right? So we're talking about the right to bear arms, the right to free speech. The government cannot come inside your house. Those are the foundational things, right? However, now we have to go and live it out. It's okay to write it down, but now we have to go and live it out, right? So that's the hard part, right? So now that's where we come to the living out thing. Now, Israel received the foundational things. Now they know the word of God. Now they're going to be in the land that God had promised them. How are they going to live out the word of God? How are they going to live out the Constitution, right? How are they gonna be able to do that? So that's where we are now, right? So the foundational things are God's expectation of his people. It's the same thing when you raise your kids, right? You give them the foundational thing. You give them foundation. Eventually they have to live that house. Now you have to see, are they going to put in application what you've taught them, right? The living out thing is the reality now. That's the reality of God's people. They're attempting to live out God's expectation, right? And in the living out things, the story of the living out things are depicted in the book of Joshua to Esther. 12 books. We're going to see, did the Israelites live out what the expectation God had for them? The foundational things, right? And this is during the span of 1,000 years, right? During the span of those 12 books span 1,000 years. So under the living out things, it consists of 5 sections. You will see Israel living under theocracy, right? You will see Israel living under monarchy. You will see Israel living under a divided kingdom. You will see Israel living after they return from exile. Those are the 2 main epoch times, sensations, dispensation, or some people say, right, of Israel living, right? But what we want to talk about, section 1 in the living out thing, Israel is under, the one we're going to talk about is the 6 books. We're going to talk about the minor prophets. That's what this Bible study is going to be about, the minor prophets. And the minor prophets consist of 6 books, right? Joshua, Judges, not Ruth. We're not counting Ruth. Ruth is not a historical book per se, right? It's something that happened during the time, right? So it's Joshua, Judges, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings. Now I'm not saying Chronicles because Chronicles is just a repeat of what happened.
Can
right?
you scroll that down just for a second on those
Which
5
one?
things? I'm just missing a couple. There, thank you.
Yeah. So that's the era under the living out thing. Israel's gonna, once they get into the land, first they're going to live under theocracy. What does theocracy? Theocracy is God is the one ruling over them, right? Theos, God, right? So theocracy. God is the one ruling over them, right? Even though they have judges, but God is the one ruling over them, right? But then they reach to a point where they say, oh, we want kings, just like all the other nations. God says, okay, you do? Okay, so then God gives them Saul, the first king. So now they're living under monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, David died now. Solomon, his son, become king. And he did not listen to the wisdom of the older people. He listened to his friends. The people revolt. The kingdom is divided. 2 goes to the south, 10 stays in the north. So now Israel is living under a divided kingdom. And then they did not listen to the word of God. So God took the land from them, sent another country, and then they are in exile now, living in Babylon, right? And then again, God gave them grace. They return back to the land to build a wall and to build a temple and so on, right? Okay. So in the living out things, the Bible says we're gonna do, they're gonna both live under theocracy and monarchy. So for this Bible study, you're not gonna see them living under divided kingdom, right? Before December, before the end of the year, you're not gonna see that. Perhaps when the year starts. Okay? So again, as I say, theocracy is a system of government in which God rules under the supervision of a priest or a judge, right? Monarchy is a system of government on which a king rules, okay? So the section is built out under theocracy, and then these are the 6 books. Now, let me quickly make a quick review so we can get to where we're at right now, right? Remember God's covenantal promise to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. Again, Genesis chapter 15, Genesis chapter 17, and so on and so on. But now let's look at Genesis chapter 12. God, the Lord had said to Abraham, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. So God promised to make Abraham into a great nation. And as we've been saying for the entire Bible study, a nation consists of 5 things. I used to say 4, I just add this new one because I'm like, oh, right? A people. You have to have a people, right? To have a nation. If a land is empty, it's not a nation, right? Just a land, just a piece of land. You have to have a people, you have to have a leader, you have to have constitutional laws, you have to have an army, and you have to have a land. So those 5 things consist of a nation. Now the question is, did God keep his promise to Abraham? Did God keep his promise? Is he able to, or did he keep his promise? Now what you have to understand, it's been 700 years since God made the promise to Abraham. They're still not in the land. 700 years. Oh, you're shocked?
Yeah, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, it is. Well, how long did they spend in slavery in Egypt?
400.
Oh,
400.
right.
Before that,
Yeah.
they spent, And before that, they spend time. Watch this. Who's Abraham's son?
Isaac.
Isaac. Who's Isaac's son?
Jacob.
You see, so now it's 2 or 3 generations passing, right?
Yeah.
And then now
Jas-
they are in Egypt.
Joseph, yeah.
Joseph,
Fourth
living with
generation,
Joseph
yeah.
until he died. Then after that, they spent 400 years in slavery. So that, at the beginning, took about almost 200 years from the time of Abraham to the time Joseph died.
Okay.
Now, a king who doesn't care about Joseph comes in to now put them in slavery for 400 years.
Gotcha.
And then now they spend about 40 years in the desert,
Okay.
right? So it's about 700 years, right?
Wow.
Since God made the promise to Abraham to give him this land, right? To make him into a great nation, to make his name great again, and so on, so on, and so on. So we learn in Genesis chapter 41, verse 56 to 57, there was a severe famine, right? And that threatened God's promise to Abraham to make him into a great nation, right? So then what happened? Because of the famine, Israel went into Egypt. Not just Israel, the whole world went into Egypt. And God, right here, and Genesis, because of great famine that threatened God's promise to Abraham, that would threaten God's promise to Abraham if the people died.
Right.
Because the famine was severe, there's no food, right? They too, like the rest of the world, left for Egypt to buy grain, right? But according to Exodus chapter 1, verse 1 to 5, the number of people who left Egypt were what? 70 in all, except for Joseph and his sons, right? Manasseh and Ephraim, right? Now, because God works all things for good, through the evil acts of Joseph's brothers committed against him, God made Joseph second in command in Egypt to receive the 70 and keep them from dying in the famine, so as to keep his promise to Abraham. Because if they die, then there goes the promise, right? They die, there goes the promise. Okay? So, they are the names of the son of Israel, right? The ones that went into Egypt. There's his sons. Abraham descended, settled, and made their home in Egypt. While in Egypt, God's promise, the first part of God's promise was realized. What was it? You will make you great into a big nation, right? So the descendant of Abraham became a people. That's the first one, right? We said to become a nation, you have to be a people. In Exodus chapter 1, verse 7, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful, right? They were multiplied greatly, increasing numbers, and so on. It is a great thing that they became fruitful people, but they are now numerous without what?
A leader.
Joseph died, right? So now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died. So now they are people, but no leader. A new king to whom Joseph meant nothing came into power, right? So I'm not going to read all this. I'm just doing a quick review again. Exodus chapter 1, verse 8 to 14, right? So now they said, hey, the Israelites have become far too numerous. Come, we deal with them shrewdly. Because if there's a fight with another country, they might join the other country and overtake us. So the Egyptian worked them ruthlessly into slavery. And because of their hardship, the second part of God's promise will come to pass. God will become their leader himself. Mm-hmm. He called Moses and said, I hear the cry of my people. Let them know that I'm going to deliver them out of Egypt. Right? So God become their leader. Even though Moses is their human leader in some ways, but God is ultimately their leader. Right? So Moses met with God, and God says in Exodus chapter 3, verse 5 to 8, do not come any closer. God said, take off your sandal, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, God of Moses. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery, right? So God come to their rescue. Guys, I'm running through this because we studied this for like 6 months. Okay. So God came and freed Israel from the hands of the Egyptian to lead them to the land he promised Abraham. But on their way, he gave them the Constitution, right? But on, I forgot to put on. But on their way, he gave them the Constitution, which we call the Ten Commandments, right? Plus the 600 and other laws that he had given them. You find it in Exodus chapter 20. So now they are people, they have a leader who freed them out of Egypt, and now they have a constitution to live by. This is how you should live your life, right? So there are two things that are left.
Land.
Army
Land.
and land. So during the journey, they built a great army. In the book of Numbers, you will see that they were dividing them in different groups, right? The men of army age, right? So they built a great army led by God himself. That's very important because I want to talk about that for this Bible study. In the book of Numbers so that they could conquer the promised land to really become a great nation. Now we find ourselves in the former prophet. So all these four things is accomplished. There's one more that is left to accomplish. So now we find ourselves in the former prophet. By the way, the word former prophet is biblical. It's not something that is made up. If you read the book of Ezekiel, it's talk about the former prophet, right? And Jesus himself would say the law and the prophets, right? That's how they look at the Bible and the Hebrew, in the Hebrew Bible. If I give you my Hebrew Bible, you will see that as well. They call it the laws and the prophets, right? So in the last 5 books, Israel became a numerous people. God became their leader. They have a constitution through the covenantal laws. They have an army. So the only thing missing is the fulfillment of God's promise to give them the land in order to be a nation. Now the question is God able and faithful to give them the promised land?
Obviously.
Right? Yeah. Now we're looking, it's always good to look at it from the review mirror.
Yes, it is. It's easy.
It's easy, but the Israelites, right? The book of Joshua. So now let's talk about, so now we are at the book of Joshua. The book of Joshua is named after the leader who succeeded Moses. Moses died. Remember, everyone who came out of Egypt died. Because God says you will not see the promised land. The only 2 people that made it are who?
Caleb and Joshua.
Caleb and Joshua is the only 2 people. All the people that made it to the promised land were born in the desert in those 40 years. That means no one was really older than 40-something years old that went into the promised land.
Yeah. Except
for Joshua, Caleb, and perhaps Rahab. Well, no, actually, I'm saying Rahab. Rahab was already there, sorry. And so the leader. So then Joshua, now Moses died, and Joshua became their leader. His name was Hosea.
Sure.
Oh.
I believe you.
Which means he saves. Hosea,
No,
right?
I just meant the symbols.
Well, that's H, that's O,
we-
that's
We trust
H-E.
you.
It's S-H-E.
Wait a minute.
It's like,
Can you do it correct? You need to correct that. That's not what that is.
Right.
S-H-E.
S-H-E? Yeah, S-H-E. This one right here. He said, could you correct it? Yeah, that's what, yeah. That's a shin in Hebrew. That's like S-H. And then if the point was there, it'll be S. Not S-H.
Like I said, we trust you.
Yeah. So, but I also write it Hosea, which means he saves. In Numbers 13 verse 16, Moses changed his name from Hosea to Yehoshua. Yehoshua, which means Yahweh
oh,
saves.
it says,
So Joshua's name was not Joshua.
it got changed.
His mother gave him his name was Hosea.
Huh.
But Moses changed his name. You could look in Numbers 13 verse 16.
Yeah, but Joshua doesn't have any parents.
Yeah, none. Nun is,
He's the son of none.
yeah.
N-U-N, not N-O-N-E.
So where do we get the name Joshua from then?
Huh?
Where do we get the name Joshua from?
Moses gave him the name. Well, by the way, it's not Joshua. And then again, for people who saying that God's name is Yeshua, well, I never tried to correct people in that really, because I don't really care. It's not Yeshua. The Hebrew is Yehoshua. Okay, Yehoshua.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, Yehoshua. Okay, which means Yahweh saves. So it's not Joshua who's going to save God's people. Moses is saying it's God that's going to save God's people.
Is Joshua just English for Yeho?
Yeah, it's come from Joshua comes from the Latin and the Latin and then from the Hebrew. Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, the name Joshua is significant for two reasons. One, he shares the same name with Jesus. Jesus' name is Yehoshua.
Wow.
Jesus from the Greek and Latin, Yehoshua is the Hebrew. The Greek and Latin becomes what we translate in English, Jesus. But his true name is Yehoshua, right? You see that in Matthew chapter 1, verse 21, right? She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Yehoshua. Why? Because he will save his people from their sins. He's Yahweh. He's God as well, right? So God saves.
Yeah. So Moses changed his own name to Yehoshua?
Moses changed
Joshua.
Joshua's name.
To
Well,
Yehoshua.
from Hosea, like Hosea,
Right.
to Yehoshua.
Why would he call him that?
I don't know. Ask Moses.
Jesus.
Huh?
And then-
No, if you look in Numbers, that's what the book of Numbers says, right? Read it. Read it for me, anyone.
It's Numbers what? 13, 16?
Numbers 13, 16.
These are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land, and Moses called Joshua, the son of Nun, Joshua.
Right?
Yeah, so he
So
changed.
Moses is the one who changed his name.
Yeah.
Just like Jesus changed Peter's name.
I know, I don't understand it. And Saul, Paul, Peter, but I mean,
Yeah.
why makes everybody up?
It's like Jacob to Israel too.
Jacob to Israel.
No, by Solomon.
Because names had significance
Right.
in the Old Testament, right? And in the ancient time, right? Your name had meaning. And people didn't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna just make up a name to call that child," right? Right? Jacob, what Jacob's being vagabond.
Oh,
I thought it meant betrayer or
Betrayer,
something.
yeah.
Like,
Deceiver.
deceiver.
Deceiver, a vagabond. What does a vagabond do?
Yeah.
Deceives, right? Deceive. He's a deceiver, right? And that's what he did to his brother, right? Yeah. So, okay, let's move on. What time is it? Okay, it's already 30. Okay. So now, who is Joshua? Oh no, let me finish. I didn't say it. Secondly, why his name is important. First of all, he shares the same name with Jesus. Secondly, his name is proof that even though he is, I said that, even though he's leading his people, he's not the one saving the people. It is Yahweh who saves them. And then it is always Yahweh who saves. Salvation comes from
The Lord.
the Lord. Yahweh.
So he took his name from he saves to Yahweh
Yahweh
saves.
saves. Yeah.
Ah, so that's why he changed it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yahweh saves. Yeah.
See? Thank you. You
You're
answered the question for me.
Yeah.
Huh?
He asked why
You
did he
answered my
change
question.
it?
You said, I don't know, I'm not Moses.
Oh no, I thought you were saying why.
He
Like,
saves because he's not
no,
the
but I
savior.
had already said that. I didn't think that's what you were asking. I thought you were asking why did he do it? Like,
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I thought you were asking.
No, I'm thinking-
He saves.
why did he change his name? Why did he have the right to change his name? That's what I thought you were asking.
Okay.
No, but I did say that. I said he changed it from he saved to Yahweh saved. That's what Yehoshua means.
Gotcha.
Okay? Yeah. But I'm glad that she made it clear.
My head's exploded.
Huh?
My head's exploding. There's a lot of information.
Yeah.
6 months worth.
6 months worth.
Well, this is new. This is
15
new now.
minutes.
We're doing new stuff now.
Okay, good.
Right? And the good thing is I keep going back and back and back and back and back. Right? Review it.
That's what YouTube is for.
Huh?
That's what YouTube is for.
That's what I do, what?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Catch up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Brand.
So who is Joshua? Who is Joshua? Well, we first encountered Joshua in Exodus chapter 17. That's when we first encountered him, when he was appointed by Moses to lead the fight against the Amalekites. Okay? Right after the rock episode at Massa in Meribah, right? And next, we see him again in Exodus chapter 32. He is described as Moses' assistant now. So he was somebody who was in the army. Now Moses bring him closer to him. Now he's Moses' personal assistant. Right? And then we see him again in Numbers chapter 11, verse 28. He was said to be the son of
Nobody.
nobody. Yeah, the son of none. Right? The assistant of Moses from his youth. Okay? And then again, Joshua was one of the 2 spies out of the 12 spies who believed God would give them the land. Right? He's the only those 2 spies. Him and Caleb, who gave a positive report about the promised land. Of course, it was he and Caleb alone, out of those who came out of Egypt, will make it to the promised land. What is the now we know who Joshua is, right? So, what is the purpose of the book of Joshua? The purpose of the book is what's always the most important thing, right? The purpose of the book of Joshua is to record Yahweh's faithfulness to fulfill all of his promises. Right? Yahweh's faithfulness to fulfill all of his promises. That Yahweh is found faithful because he will keep any promise he makes. That's what the book wants to show. I put this in, underline this, and I didn't say it. In spite of Israel's unfaithfulness, God, in spite of your unfaithfulness, God will always remain faithful. So the question again we ask, is God able to give them the promised land? You heard the spy report, right? When the spies went to spy the country, they felt like, whoa, these people are giants. We look like grasshoppers, right?
They did all admit that it was a good land, though, right?
No. It's a good land filled with milk and honey.
Right, but only Joshua and Caleb were positive about the fact that they could.
Yeah, well, not only in Rahab.
Right.
Yeah. Rahab was not even there in Egypt, who did not witness anything. Rahab was not there seeing God giving them manna to eat and leading them with the clouds at night, parting the Red Sea in 2. Rahab didn't witness any of that, but yet she believed. Right?
She was one of the ones in the land already, right?
Yes. She was in Canaan. She was a prostitute. Yes, right? Yeah.
No one knows to escape.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is, she had not experienced God yet, but yet she believed.
She'd already heard of him, though, right? It's
She heard of them.
We've
Yeah.
all heard of your God.
I told you one of the reasons why. Again, I used to ask myself, really, God? Why do you have to go to Pharaoh and say, let my people go, and then one plague, and let my people go, and then a second plague, when you could have done it just once? No. He did it for a purpose. News travel. He wants to take his time for the news to travel, all the other countries to know, because this was the greatest nation at that time. Look what the God of Israel has done to the Egyptian. We don't want to fight.
Bad news travels
Right?
fast.
Right? So isn't it what she said? Our hearts are melted with fear.
Right.
right? But that's because God wanted to let the news travel, right? So the other nations could hear, right? So God has a reason for doing what he does, okay? Why did it take so long? And is God able to deliver on his promise? Because according to the spies, the land he promised them is full with giants, and the Israelites looked like grasshoppers before them. And they were not going to give up their land that easily. Okay? The book of Joshua records Yahweh's faithfulness to fulfill all of his promises. Where do we find that? We find that in Joshua chapter. Every book in the Bible have its purpose. And the purpose is always found in the book. This is Joshua telling you what the purpose of the book of Joshua is. So the Lord gave Israel all the land he had sworn to give their ancestors. And they took possession of it and settled there. The Lord gave them rest on every side, just as he had sworn to their ancestors. Not one of the enemies withstood them. The Lord gave all their enemies into their hands. Not one of the Lord's good promises to Israel failed. Every one was fulfilled. Thank you, sir. Right? Is God able
More than
and
able.
faithful to keep his promise? Every one of them was fulfilled. And whatever promise that God has promised you, and when Jesus says, I'm going to prepare a place for you, that's his promise to you. That's his promise to you. That promise will not fail. You could take that to the bank. So what genre is the book? What type of book is it? What type of reading? Remember, we always talk about, right here, genre. What type of book is the book of Joshua? It's a Hebrew narrative. Narratives are the easiest books to read. It's a story, right? It's a combination of stories and speeches, right? When was the book written? The date? Many scholars believe it was about 1450 before Christ. 1450 before Christ. Okay? Who is the author of the book of Joshua? The book of Joshua, like all of the former prophets' books, are anonymous. We don't have a specific author. And by the way, this was the first book that carries the name of somebody, right? In the Bible. But who's the author? We don't really know. It's anonymous. Although we know that, if we read Joshua, somebody read Joshua 24:26 for me. Joshua 24:26.
Joshua 24:26.
Mm-hmm.
Ready. Got it. And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God, and he took a large stone and set it up there, under the terebinth that was by the sanctuary of the Lord.
Okay? So as it says, Joshua wrote. Say it again. Joshua wrote what?
Joshua wrote these words in the book of the
Joshua
law.
wrote this word. So we know Joshua did not just go through the history, he wrote things down.
Okay.
So this is a first account. First primary source account.
So why do they say it's anonymous then? Why
I'm
don't-
gonna tell you why.
Oh.
So what I'm saying is, I say that too, right? And I'm gonna prove to you why as well. So it's almost like, you see these Bible studies I'm doing? About 15 years ago, I started documenting every sermon I preach every Bible study I teach. So if you go into my computers or Google Drive, I have a lot of Bible studies.
That's why his drive is always full.
Yeah, always full, right? So let's say I die. And then one of my children said, let me turn these Bible studies into books. Right? So the content might still be mine, but I'm not really the author of the book in a sense. I'm the author in a lot of sense, right? But somebody made it a book. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And I believe this is the same thing that happened with the book of Joshua.
So his written accounts were turned into a book by
Yes,
someone
so
anonymous.
he documented a lot of stuff.
Okay.
But let me, so I'm going to show you why I believe. Like for instance, Joshua chapter 4, verse 1 to 9. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over to you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God in the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribe of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When he crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribe of Israel, of the Israelites. And as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the ark of the covenant had stood. And they are there to
This day.
Why would they need to say they are there to this day?
Because at the time the book was written, that's where they went.
But that has to be something in the future.
Yeah.
That is being written in the future things. And he wants to tell you, if it was the same day they put the stone down, nobody have to say they are there until this day.
Because they wouldn't even know that.
Well, they would know, but it's not something you need to say. It's the same thing when I teach about when God says, God, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And then verse 2 says, and the earth was void and formless. That is saying something. It's saying that God created the heavens and the earth, and then God stopped for a little while.
We don't know how long.
We don't know for how long, but we know he had to stop. Because why would you need to say it was void and formless if you did it at once? There's no time for you to see it was void and formless. But then God says, you know what, I'm going to make men. Let me make the earth habitable. And that's when he made the light, right? But the earth was already created. And he said, let there be light. It's not when he said, let there be light, the earth was. So that's the reason why sometimes when people are fighting with people who says the earth is billions of years, I'm like, why do you need to fight with them? Because actually there's a clue in the Bible that could happen. There's a possibility. Because of the time of the earth was void and formless. For how long? We don't know. Alright?
So many things, many times it says, and they're there to this day. I've read that a lot of times throughout this.
That's why.
Yeah.
So does that similarly mean that it was written about at a later time
It means somebody else is putting the story together. They might be taking Joshua's notes,
Right,
right? Because you see what the Bible says,
right,
what it says when we read it. Joshua wrote these things down.
right.
But now this person might elaborate, and make it into a book, do transitional sentences and all these other things, right?
Right. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean Joshua is not the one who wrote the content.
Right.
But Joshua didn't write that. And they are there to this day. Joshua didn't write that.
Right.
Did you guys get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. And then again, we could see that as well in Joshua 5:2-9. Right? I'm not going to read it. You could read it yourself. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt." That's when they circumcised everybody. So the place has been called Gilgal to this day. Right? Joshua 7:24-26. Then all Israel stoned him, Achan. We'll talk about Achan and after they had stoned the rest, they burned them. Over Achan, they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remained to this day. Right? This would not make sense when the other says, "and these stones are here till this day," for it to have been Joshua writing that. Right? So we know that Joshua did write content down, but yet somebody pick it up and make it, continue with the book. Right? Because of the internal evidence. Okay? Let's talk about the book outline. Oh, wow. Well done. Okay, so before I look into these, let me just take the highlights. The first part of the book is preparation to conquer the land. That's chapter 1-5, right? Preparation to conquer the land. That's the first part of the book. Chapter 1-5. It's the Israelites are preparing themselves to go and conquer the land, right? I'll talk about the parts in there and from 1-5, but let me take the highlights. Second one, occupation of the land, from chapter 6 to chapter 12. Now they are in the land, occupying the land. They live there, they settling there. In chapter 6-12, right? Chapter 13-21 is the allocation of the land. Now they're giving a piece of land to this tribe, giving a piece of land to this tribe, giving a piece of land. Okay, we conquered this, you could take it, but you could settle there, but your army has to go continue to fight with us. We're going to get the other land, and then once we finish, you could go back to your people. Right? And lastly is 22-24. I think it has 24 chapters, Joshua, right? That's 24, yeah, I think so. Yeah. 24 chapters. Yeah. Chapter 22-24 is convocation in the land. Convocation in the land. All right? So, preparation, right, to conquer the land, settling in the land, allocation of the land, and then convocation in the land. Right? So, in the first 5 chapters, in the preparation to conquer the land, Moses died. Joshua take the command of the people. The spy went to spy the land, and you'd see their interaction with Rahab. Then you'll see the crossing of the Jordan River and the putting of the 12 stone that serves that witness. And then you'll see the circumcision of the new generation. Okay?
Google strikes again.
I have a question. When it described the stones,
Uh-huh.
it sounds as if they made a dam. Is that what they were saying? That they stopped the flowing river
No,
of the Jordan?
no.
With
God's
a
not.
dam?
God's not, no.
No.
Not with
They
the stone.
took the stones from the river.
They
to
took
make
the
rock.
Stop
stone.
the river so they can get the stones out of the river.
Yes, well,
No, take
God
the
stopped
archways.
God stopped the river so they could cross on dry land.
Right.
The second time? So
It's
he did
probably
it
more
twice?
than one.
Yeah,
once
not
with
just the
Sea,
Red Sea.
and again now with the Jordan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Probably did it.
But remember I talk about that. I've talked about that in Bible study.
Yeah, I remember
Right?
you said in the first time it was he split the sea,
Yeah.
let them walk through, and then the second time he told
Well,
them,
the
no,
the
go walk
second
through.
time required more faith.
Exactly.
Oh, right.
The
He
first
didn't
time
split the sea,
Moses
so they
held
started
his staff, and then they were on the side and they saw the sea parted. So it's easy to walk. But this one, God said, put your foot first, and then I'll part it. Because you've already seen what I did, so you're going to trust me if I just say, raise your hand and then I'll part it. No. Now, are you really going to trust me now? Put your feet in.
Right.
Right? And then guess what? The time they went to cross the Jordan is the time when the Jordan was the most agitated. It wasn't the time when it was calm.
Right.
Right? It was bad weather time, right? I remember as kids in Haiti, there are some rivers that could be this small. When they get agitated, they could be taller than this church. So, in a country sometimes that doesn't have the right infrastructure, people could spend a week not being able to go down or come up. Right? And actually, I almost died in one as a kid. I went to visit my grandmother in the countryside. And I'm in the river with all my friends. And then somebody just took me. I still remember it. I can't remember much, but they grabbed me and ran with me. And then here comes the river going. Yeah.
Whoa.
Because it comes unannounced. Most of the time. Sometimes it comes when it rains, but sometimes it comes unannounced. It could be that flat and all of a sudden it's like, yeah.
Google autocorrecting for you.
What you said?
It says the spies went to rehab instead of Rahab.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the spies went to rehab.
No.
Yeah. The spy went to rehab.
See, I wrote down rehab because I thought it was spelled that way. You just pronounce it right now.
All right, now.
Thanks.
The occupation of the land. First, you will see the appearance of the commander of the Lord's army. I love this one. I can't wait to talk about it. It is the invisible that is going to fight. That's why the wall of Jericho fell down. Right? Okay? And then you'll see the conquest, saving of Rahab, saving of Rahab and her family. Okay? The struggle at Ai. Okay? They just destroyed Jericho, which was a big city. And now they go fight Ai, which is a very small place, and they got annihilated. Why? Because they didn't listen to God. God says, go and fight, don't take anything. Burn everything. Oh no, and so Achan went in there and took stuff, took gold and stuff. And then now they go fight, and they're losing fight. So Joshua's like, what in the world? What's going on here? So he goes to pray. God says, yeah, I told you guys not to take anything. Achan took something. That's the reason why you lost it.
Is Achan spelled that way or is it ACHAN?
Yeah, it could be ACH. Actually, it is ACH.
Just write it in Google and no question.
Huh?
Just
Oh no. You know what's so funny? Most of the time, well, not most of the time, I will always write it properly in Hebrew. And then in English,
Except
Yeah.
when you're playing Scrabble, right?
Yeah, then he makes stuff up
yeah,
when he's playing Scrabble.
sour. Victor, and then they have victory at I, and then a renewal of the covenant, right? That's what you will see under the occupation of the land, right? That's what we'll study. Allocation of the land. So the land. So talking about the land that were they remain that was remained to be conquered. Okay, the land remaining to be conquered. They had to go get new land, and then give the new lands to different tribes. And then the convocation. Okay. So remember what happened. Every new leader. Every time somebody dies, there's a new leader, God will renew the covenant.
So,
He doesn't want anyone to say, I didn't know. Alright? So there he will renew the covenant again. Okay? But before we go to the book of Joshua, we will study the book next week, right? I want to address the elephant in the room. There's always the elephant in the room. Why would God promise and give the land of the Canaanites to Israel? How is that fair? I hear a lot of people ask that question.
this must go way back to something that happened in the past before the Canaanites became the Canaanites.
Well, Amalekite, they are the Amalekite.
Okay, so
When we
it
say the
happened-
Canaanite, it's almost like Canaan is more like the bigger land. But inside that land, there's the Hittite, the Amalekite, the Jebusite,
Oh, right.
all these other people, right?
So those people, my guess is that they derived from somebody who was disobedient to God or
Yeah.
something, and so he says, probably way back somewhere,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm taking it from you.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you why. Oh, I've heard people fight over this. Why God's not fair? Why is God fair? Why would He give somebody else's land? Right? Well, the first reason, according to Psalm 24, verse 1 to 2, the earth is the Lord's.
Yeah, right.
God does as God pleases.
The earth is the Lord and everything in it. The world and all who lives in it. For He founded upon the sea and established it upon the waters. It's like you tell me, why do I give somebody else? I take something that I let you borrow.
Why do I take the toy from Henry and give it to Brody?
Give it to Broden. Yeah.
Come on, man.
Right? Or why did you give me 5
He
and
likes
give
the
me 7?
Israelites better. No
Well,
offense, Henry.
That would be favoritism. Well, then that would be favoritism.
True that.
Right? That would be favoritism. It's not fair as well to have favor for God. Right?
Where did God say He was fair?
Huh?
Where does He say
Well,
He
God's,
was fair?
God's always fair. Actually, He's always fair.
Right.
Well, how do we know the earth is the
It's
Lord's?
just not even.
Hmm?
It's not even, but it's fair.
Yeah, it may not be even, but it's always fair. Right? How do we know the earth is the Lord? That Psalm 24, verse 1 to 2 could make such declaration. Well, Genesis chapter 1 tells us in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
There it is.
If He created it, it's His. Right? What does that mean? I mean, God is the landlord. Anyone who occupies a piece of land is by the good grace of God. So as a landlord, he has the right to evict anyone he pleases. Anyone he pleases. So can he evict a nation out of the land without cause? That's what we're talking about. How does that fare? Well, I know it's yours. I know it's your land, you're the landlord, you do whatever you want with it, but is it fair? It's like, I don't know if you were kids, you used to go to the park, There's one ball, and the guy's not that good at playing basketball. So if you lose, you stay on the sideline. So the first game played, the second game played, he's on the sideline, even though the ball is his. And then at some point, he's upset. He said, "Give my ball, I'm going home." So that no one plays. All right? This is what God's doing. Well, he can, because he's sovereign. Right? Sovereign means nobody asks me questions, I do what I please. However, God is not like other sovereign. He's also just. Just because you're sovereign doesn't mean you do whatever you please, even though you can. But God is also just. He will not violate anyone. Right? Meaning he will not evict anyone without cause. Therefore, as Jen said, God has to have a reason for evicting them out of the land. You said favorite. Well, maybe Israel was his favorite. Well, in Acts chapter 10, verse 34, Peter began to speak and say, "I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism." In Romans chapter 2, verse 11, Paul says, "For God does not show favoritism." So why? Why did God evict them? Well, Genesis chapter 15, verse 1 to what? To a lot. I'll get there. I didn't put it. I think maybe 1 to 14, but let me read. After these things, the word of the Lord came unto Abraham in a vision, saying, "Fear not, Abraham, I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward." Abraham said, "Lord, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus." Abraham said, "Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir." Why did I do the King James Version? "And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, that this shall not be thine heir, but that shall come forth at thine own bowels shall be thine heir." All right, let me just read it.
It switched on you.
What did I say? What was it I said? Oh,
Genesis
Genesis
15.
This is 15. I can't take that right now. Okay. Where were we? We were in 6? Okay. Let me open it up a little bit. Okay. Abraham believed the Lord, and he credited to him as righteousness. He also said to him, "I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it." But Abraham said, "Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it?" So the Lord said to him, "Bring me a heifer, a goat and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon." Abraham brought all these to him, cut them in two, and arranged the halves opposite each other. The birds, however, he did not cut in half. The birds of prey came down on the carcass, but Abraham drove them away. As the sun was setting, Abraham fell into a deep sleep, and a thick of dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, "Know for certain that for 400 years, even the slavery, the people going into slavery, God had told Abraham, announced that was going to happen, right? For 400 years, your descendant will be stranger in a country, not their own, Egypt, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish them, this nation. Again, but I will punish the nation that they serve as slaves. And afterward, they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestor. Wow, thank God for promising me this land, but I'm not going to see it. You will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation, your descendant will come back here, for the sin of the Amorite has not yet reached its full measure.
Aha.
They were sinning. They were not doing what God wanted them to do. And when you're not doing the right thing in the house, the landlord have the right to evict you. They were sinning. God gave them the land just like he gave Israel the land. But they were not doing what they were supposed to do. And you're going to know, I'm going to read to you what they were doing. What has God so pissed off? But it took 700 years. God is saying, stop sinning. And they continue. Right? When the sun had set, okay, so let me stop here. So when you talk about Canaan, so you have to know it's the Kenites, the Hittite, the Perizzite, all of them, right?
Yep.
When
Amorites,
Canaan.
Canaanites,
Okay?
yep.
So that's the reason why God decided to take the land away from them. Because their sin reached to a point, God could not take it anymore. For the same reason he burned Sodom and Gomorrah. He could not take it anymore. Right? Okay, let's get back to it. Okay? So that's the reason. It's not because God was being unfair. Right? It's because the iniquity of the Amorite is not yet full. I'm going to wait till it's to a point so that when I judge them, no one can blame me. Right? Now Joshua chapter 1 and 2. What do I have here? Where do I have Joshua chapter 1 and 2? Spares the life of Rahab the prostitute. Oh, that's something I wanted to say, but I'm not going to say it tonight. So God gave the land to Israelite, not just because he promised Abraham to give his descendant the land, but also it was judgment for their sins. Therefore, they get evicted by the landlord who is not happy with them.
But that is just.
Of course that is just.
Yeah.
Right? So people who never read the Bible or read the Bible passively often judge God unfairly because he judges. But God always have a reason when he judges. In Deuteronomy chapter 30, starting at verse 15, you will learn what they were doing. Exactly listen to what God is saying to the Israelites not to do, but saying don't do what these people are doing when you get there. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 30. That's how I know what they were doing. See, I set before you today life and prosperity, death and destruction. For I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, and to keep his commandments, decrees, and law. Then you will live and increase, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to possess. That's before they get into the land. Moses is telling them, if you obey God's command, his decrees and laws, he will bless you in the land that you are entering, the one he promised Abraham. But if your heart turns away and you are not obedient, and if you are drawn away to bow down to other gods and worship them, I declare to you this day that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. Okay? Mm-hmm. So God is not just doing that to the Amorites or the Canaanites. He's saying that to Israel as well. So it's not good, no favoritism. Everybody's held to the same standard. Right? So in Kings chapter 1, in 1 Kings chapter 14, and the Lord will strike Israel so that it will be like a reed swaying in the water. He will uproot Israel from this good land that he gave to their ancestors and scattered them beyond the Euphrates River, because they aroused the Lord's anger by making Asherah poles, and he will give Israel up because of the sin Jeroboam has committed. Jeroboam was their king and has caused Israel to commit. So God is saying he will kick Israel out of the land too, because they are not following him. They are not doing the right thing. Right? Tell me I have it. I don't think I look for it to show you exactly what they were doing. I don't have it right here yet, but I'll look for it. What were they doing? What he's saying, God says, do not do what these people in the lands were doing. That's the reason why I take them out of the land. Do not sleep with your father's wife, because that's what they were doing. Do not sleep with your brother's wife. Do not sleep with your sister. Those are all the things that they were doing. Mm-hmm. Do not sleep with your own mother. Right? Do not sleep man with man and woman with woman. These were the reason why God was kicking them out of the land. For many, 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 many reasons. What they were doing were just not right before God. And God says to Israel, if you dare to even go near their practice,
You're going to be kicked.
I'm going to kick you out of the land as well. Why is he going to do that? He's the landlord. He can't do that. He made it, like the African American mothers, they say to their children all the time, I bring you into this world.
Take you out.
Take you out.
And take you out.
I say that too.
Your mother used to say that too?
She says that to me.
Although I probably couldn't.
I bring you into this world,
That's what I'm here
I can take you out too.
Dad should take you out.
Right? When God said thou shalt not, he means it. He means it. And just like he holds every single one of his promises, he will punish every sin. Just as he holds all of his promises, he will punish every sin. In fact, that is the theme of the story of Samson. Nobody sins and get away with it. I don't care how strong you are. The strongest man that ever lived. You sin, you're not going to get away with it. Not you, not me. But the thing about it, God always warns us. He never takes us by surprise. And the funny thing, the worst part about it, he doesn't just warn us once, multiple times. That's the reason why when I'm looking at the United States today, and I'm saying, what in the world? What are we doing?
Repeating history.
Huh?
Repeating history.
Yep.
Yeah, but none of us can say we did not know. None of us can say we did not know. And then what's worse is the church just remained totally silent. So not only it's either we take totally silent, or you hear prominent preachers starting to adapt these things. I heard T.D. Jakes in a interview with Lamont, and he asked him about homosexuality. What's your thought about homosexuality? He says, I've evolved and I'm evolving. I've evolved and I'm evolving. Whoa!
God doesn't evolve.
That's not gonna fly.
Right? I've evolved and I'm evolving. And you could ask over and over again, you know, and like King asked Joel Austin, if you have somebody who's who's getting married and they both are gay, how many people I've seen, yeah, we would go. We would go. It's not just them. Those are the names that comes to my mind right now.
Years ago, I had a neighbor that lived 2 doors down. Very nice guy, police officer in the town, and lived next door with his then boyfriend, and then became later his husband. At that point, my mom, Tara's mom, had moved in next door, so it was my house, Tara's mom's house, and then this gentleman here. Love these guys, love the mom. They were good people. They invited me to the wedding. Now I got a problem. Because me in good faith cannot go and stand and say, I'm in agreement with what's taking place. So we respectfully declined. The following year, the neighbor who sold Tara's mom her house invited us to the wedding. They had lived in that house. Him and his then girlfriend became wife later, invited us, and we were all there together. Him and his husband, this new couple, and blah, blah, blah. I can go and stand in this. I couldn't stand in that. You know what I mean? And we never treated them different, but hey, we can't stand for that.
Well, again, you know, Hebrews chapter 11 says, as I was preaching on this Saturday, it is a terrible thing to fall in the hands of the mighty hands of God. Some way, somehow you will be judged. I'm just letting you know, I'm letting me know. Who would you rather be judged by? God or men?
God.
Because it's a terrible thing to fall into the hands of the living God. A terrible thing. What text that says it is better, something about, what's the text?
Is it the one that says it's better to have a millstone tied around you?
No. Fear not the one who could destroy the body, but the one who could destroy the soul. Right? God is serious about sin.
I believe that's why when David had a choice to make, do you want God to judge you for so many days, or fall into the hands of these people, or I forget what the third thing was. He said, give me God. And in a day, the Spirit of the Lord wiped out so many of the Israelites. He'd rather that than to fall into the hands of man.
Yeah, well, for him, again, David, again, is a lover of God. He doesn't want God's name. His purpose for that was more so, if I let somebody else do this, like men, then God's name will be defamed. And he'd rather get the punishment from God, right? But as the Bible said, it's not easy. It's a terrible thing to fall into the hands of God when God punishes. And when God punishes, it's always death penalty.
Well, we were born sinners, so we're always gonna sin, right? So we're gonna get punished no matter what.
Well, you better thank God that you have Jesus.
Yeah, but are we all,
Because-
are we all gonna get punished?
Not you if you're in Christ.
No?
You got amnesty. Blessed is the man whose sin, blessed is the man whose sin is forgiven, whose sin the Lord will never count against him.
So
Right?
when we stand before that great throne of judgment, yeah, we will be judged, but he'll see the blood before we have to pay for the penalty.
Okay,
of
because that's
our
what I was
sins.
thinking of, who will pay for our.
Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Right? Jesus paid it all. Now this is what I tell people. Now, which people says, well, if Jesus paid, that's what Paul says. If Jesus paid it all, shall we go in sinning?
No.
Not at all. Because if you truly believe in Jesus Christ, sin is not something you play with. Sin is not something you will never, ever, ever seek out to do, to live by. If you see you love sin, you're not in Christ. I can guarantee you that much. You're just not in Christ. Yes.
The verse you quoted is Matthew chapter 10, verse 28.
Mhm.
Do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in hell. Yeah, Matthew.
10, verse 28.
Let me write that down. Matthew 10. Let me write it right up there and I'll transfer it when I get it. Matthew 10, 28.
Yes.
Thank you.
So on the outline that you were going through, under allocation of the land, you have land taken from the Canaanites
Mm-hmm.
because God could evict anyone. Genesis 15, 1 through 16. But I missed the second point of it.
Which one are you saying?
At number 3, allocation of the land.
Oh, I think that's all I had on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You said that it was distributed between the
Distributed.
12 tribes, right?
Oh, yeah, distributing, yes.
Okay, so distributed.
Yeah, they're distributing the land, right? That's what they're going to do. By the way, once you pass Joshua chapter 12, the reading gets a little bit boring, right? But when I say boring, is that it's all about allocation of land, right? And it gets like, oh, come on, guys, right? But just because it's, I heard somebody said that once. Who said that? Dr. Stewart, Dr. Stewart from Gordon. He says, not all reading are fun, but they are important. And they are pleasurable, even though they're not fun. It's like when you get your test from the doctor and you're reading the list of all this thing. You know, when you have the blood test and all the tests you're reading, it gets boring. It's the same thing, it gets boring. But you're happy when everything is normal, right? Normal is boring, right? But you're happy. It's like when you buy a house. No one takes pleasure in reading the deed.
It's like this thick. Nobody actually reads
Not only
it.
is
Reading the terms and
Just sign
conditions.
the bottom.
Yeah.
Not only is thick, I don't know if they do that on purpose. You don't understand the thing they say.
No.
Because I'm reading this thing and I'm like, what? What are you
You
saying?
need a law degree.
Right? But I make sure I read the entire thing. Because I don't want anything to come back later and bite me, right? It wasn't fun, but it was necessary. Alright? It was necessary. And so, please, read the book. Don't just come here and just listen to me talk. Read the book. If you read it, you get a better understanding of the Bible study. The first 12 chapters are fun to read. They're, oh man, great stories, great stuff. And then the last 12 are a little tough, but we'll get through it. All right. Anyone have, that's where we stop today. Anyone have question, statement, or remark? So next week we're going to start with the book. We're going to start delving in the book. But I'm not gonna rush, but I'm gonna try to go as fast as I can. I probably go 2 more weeks with the book of Joshua. I'll probably go half next week, right? Probably go chapter 1 to 12 next week, and then the following week, the last.
So the following week, we can just not show up because it's just gonna be so boring.
Well,
Probably fall asleep, right?
boring, but necessary,
Yeah.
right?
So earlier you used Psalm 24, 1-2 to say that, you know, God can kind of evict anyone.
Well, the
It's
earth
his
is the
land.
Lord.
But it also says the world and those who dwell therein.
Yeah.
So it's not just that he can evict anyone he wants.
He
He can do whatever he
whatever
wants to them
he
as
wants.
he does.
Yes.
They
And
all belong to
everything,
him.
the world and everything.
Everything and everyone there.
Right?
You can take a magnifying glass,
Not-
any one of us?
Nothing was made without him, nothing was made that has been made. Right? So, yeah, so God, there's a Haitian proverb that says, God is an adult. He does what he pleases. God is an adult. He does what he pleases. All right, so again, we're going to get into the book of Joshua. And after Joshua, we'll do the Judges. That's a good book.